Your phrase of the day is pumpkin pounder. What is a pumpkin pounder, you might ask? Well, it is simply someone who pounds pumpkins, aka gingers. People who are pumpkin pounders are essentially people who are madly in love and obsessed with gingers and redheads. Do you know anybody who is a pumpkin pounder or has been a pumpkin pounder in the past? So how do you know if you are a pumpkin pounder? Well, if you're seeing this video, it's normally a sign, or if you've ever complimented a ginger, if you've ever been out and about and thought, you're a bit of me. That's another sign that you potentially could be a pumpkin pounder or have been in a past life. Although I do have to say it, being a pumpkin pounder is not a bad thing, and it's definitely something to be proud of. So don't feel ashamed, feel a sense of pride, and carry your pumpkin pounder honour with a badge of honour.
In a half mile, turn right onto Golden West Street.
Let me know if you or anyone else you know is a pumpkin pounder in the comment. Your phrase of the day is pumpkin pounder. What is a pumpkin pounder, you might ask? Well, it is simply someone who pounds pumpkins, aka gingers. People. Your phrase of the day is pumpkin pounder. What is a
Drive south on Bentley Lane. Then, in 400 feet, turn right onto Sherwood Drive. Turn right onto Sherwood Drive. Then turn left onto Promenade Parkway.
There's a pumpkin pounder.
Turn left onto Promenade Parkway. Then turn left onto Gothard Street.
mechanisms in neuroscience that drive
In 500
our
feet,
behavior?
turn right onto Evening Song Drive.
How do we keep the relationship thriving? Like what are the mechanisms I need to be aware of in the brain and in neuroscience that are going to enable my relationship to be strong and thriving, whether it's platonic or romantic? Because we talk about loneliness a lot, and there's so many people that are struggling with loneliness, and the reasons that we often attribute to that are the way we're living our lives, or behind screens, social media. But it was really illuminating to me that there is a particular mechanism in smartphones and social media that's actually inhibiting us forming relationships. I wonder if the same mechanisms might inhibit us keeping the relationships that we have.
Yeah, so I think there's so many things that are going on there. So one is like, how is technology negatively impacting our relationships, and the second is how do you maintain a healthy relationship over time. So it's like two different things that makes sense. What gets in the way, and how do you keep your tire nice and full of air versus how do you fix it if a nail punctures. So let's start with like what technology is doing. So this is what technology is basically doing to our social connections. There is a whole-scale social skills atrophy and a deconditioning of certain parts of the brain when we use technology. So the first thing to understand about the brain, this beautiful thing about the human body, inanimate objects, the more you use them, the worse they get. But the moment that you have biology, the human brain doesn't wear out, it rusts. So inactivity of the human brain is actually what causes problems. Okay, that's number one. So we can look at studies of like dementia prevention. And what we know is that encouraging neuroplasticity through things like learning how to play the piano at the age of 60 will protect us from dementia. So we need to utilize our brain to make it the strongest. There's also where you can look at the physical body, right? So when I think about what causes muscle atrophy, what causes muscle growth, the more I use my muscles, the more they grow. The more you use your brain, the more it grows. So when we look at connections, if you actually look at human communication, words are maybe, I would say, 25 to 50% of communication at most. So you can walk into a room, and without even hearing a single thing that's said, you can know there's tension in the air. Something is wrong. You can even, like, I remember when I was a kid, I used to get bullied a lot, right? And I would walk into a room, and I immediately knew that they were making fun of me. Like, all the conversation would stop, and everyone would look, like, one person would look at me, I'd see alarm in their face, they would all see, everyone else would see the alarm in their face, and they'd look over and they'd see me and everyone would stop talking. I know I'm being made fun of. So body language, tone, volume, this is really interesting. So there are even video game companies that are starting to ban people over voice comms. So how do you know someone is toxically communicating or not? What we used to do is use like words, right? So if you say some kind of racial slur in chat, like if you type it out, the game knows to scan for that, and then people will start to get around that using that sign instead of the game. So now what they're doing over voice comms is measuring tone. So depending on the volume of what you're saying, right? Like that's how they're actually detecting toxicity, because that's where toxicity exists. It's not, oh hey Steven, you're a real loser, I really dislike you. It's like, Steven, bro, you're such a loser, man. Oh my god. And even if I say that, right, it's not negative at all, even though I'm using negative words. There's another quick aside. So men are really specific for using the negative expression of a positive affection. So something that's different about men. So what we'll do is we'll actually say negative things to a friend of ours to express approval. Like when someone gets engaged or gets married, it's like, oh man, like it's still a ball and chain, we're gonna lose you, you're whipped, but everyone's smiling, everyone's congratulating you, but we just express it in a negative way. So much of our communication is tone, is body language, is volume. Now what's happening is everyone's text it. So then the brain does something that's designed to do is like, hey, we're not using this thing, let's use it. So if you don't speak a language, our brain forgets it. So this is what a lot of people don't realize, is that there's a rise in social anxiety. Why is there a rise in social anxiety? It's because the parts of our brain that reassure us in social situations are starting to atrophy. So when we don't pay attention to body language, when we don't pay attention to tone, those parts of the brain shut off. And then when I go into a social situation, those parts of the brain are inactive, so they can't reassure me. Now what happens is I go to a party that I was invited to, or I go to dinner with my friends that I was invited to. I'm kind of sitting at the end of the table, no one's really talking to me, and I'm like, oh, like I really shouldn't be here. These people just invited me out of politeness, they don't really care about me. But if your brain is functioning well, you're able to read all of this nonverbal communication that's reassuring. So when it comes to platonic friends and why this is hard, we're atrophying a lot of the social skills, a lot of these brain regions that allow us to form connections, allow us to feel reassured, allow us to feel safe. Right now I kind of feel like, oh, my friends are inviting me, but I'm bothering them by going. Like all these kinds of things we're seeing more and more of.
Are you hopeful about generations that have been connected from birth?
Yeah. So I think that even though things are problematic, right, we're talking about how things are negative and social anxiety is increasing, suicidality is increasing. I'm very optimistic because I think we have all the answers. Like that's what's so cool. Like we have a problem, but we haven't been addressing it directly. Even between the last time I was here and now, we've learned so much more. People are taking social stuff more seriously. The Surgeon General of the United States released like this bulletin on like a loneliness epidemic, right? So even like the medical establishment is starting to see loneliness as a problem that we need to target. Half of the problems that we see in the world today is because we haven't tried to fix them. They kind of crept up on us. Things like video game addiction, things like loneliness. Now we see, okay, this is a big problem, so let's start devoting resources to it. Let's understand what's going on. And we see this a lot even in our community, like where we start targeting the problem, people do better. The only reason we're losing the war is because we haven't been fighting back.
Why haven't we been fighting back? Technology's must have a pretty significant role in this.
I think we were slow. We're really good at creating things without understanding what they will do to us.
Because the impact doesn't show its face for a couple of decades.
Absolutely. And there's an even more insidious thing, which is right now, since it's isolation, like since we're seeing more isolation, we don't see the impact because literally these people are staying home. So the majority of young men, for example, like won't ever go to a therapist, which is why we can't help them with their problems. They won't share their problems with other people because first of all, they don't know how to. And secondly, they don't even know what they're feeling, so that they just feel like they're a loser. So what we started to see is that all these problems have been going on for about 10, 20 years, but they're now reaching a critical point where like we're now noticing what's going on. But this has been going on for a while.
Are people becoming more narcissistic?
Yes.
They are.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what impact is that having?
I don't even know where to start. Like, so I think it's affecting our relationships, it's affecting our happiness, it's affecting our professional ability.
I was thinking, is social media making us more narcissistic? So is that they're driving us to be more lonely? So how do we first define the word narcissism in this context?
Yeah, so I'm going to lean into kind of a more yogic definition. So we have this word in Sanskrit called ahankara, and ahankara means ego. So ahankara is your sense of self. I am dot dot dot. Okay, so I am tall, I'm short, I'm doctor, I'm father, I'm winner, I'm loser. The first thing to understand about ego is that it is not a real thing. It is an abstraction. So if you were to look at me and you say, if I say I am a doctor, and this sounds kind of like a weird question, is that true? Like what makes me a doctor? I can't biopsy myself and find doctor. You can't find doctor anywhere. Then doctor is I have a piece of paper on the wall. That's what makes me a doctor. I have a license to practice medicine. That's what makes me a doctor. It's an abstraction. So it's not like a truth. It's like a societal shared delusion that we all agree that I'm a doctor. That's why I'm a doctor. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So this is the ego. Now what we also know is that from studies on narcissism, that narcissism has its roots in insecurity. So if you think about someone who's like egotistical and confident, like Steven, I'm sure you know both. What's the difference between the two?
Confidence feels more secure, and egotisticalness feels more insecure.
Absolutely. Where does a confident person's esteem come from?
Inside.
Where does a egotistical esteem come from?
Outside.
Beautiful. So this is what social media is doing. Social media and technology is externalizing our perception. So if I think about it, think about it a couple thousand years ago, what was my mind focused on? So I would go out to hunt. I'm looking for an animal. I shoot a deer, and then I walk 3 hours back. So for some amount of time, my mind is paying attention to the there to say. Like, I can't talk to them for 10 hours a day. There's no substance, there's no news, right? We're like this tribal community. So if you really look at the history of humanity, our perception has been internally focused at least 50% of the time. Literally what we are paying attention to is our own thoughts, our own feelings, the voices, the desires, the drives that come within us. What technology has done is whole-scale externalize our perception. And this is even where, like, you know, I used to be like an efficiency junkie. And so when I was in med school, I was gonna be like you, Steven. I was gonna be super efficient, I was gonna be super successful. So I was like listening to podcasts in the morning about self-help. I was gonna listen to lectures on my way to the subway. I was gonna read on the way on the subway. I was gonna listen to a lecture on my way to the classroom, pay attention in the classroom, then do some questions, like some test questions, whatever. So my mind's constantly outside. Social media makes this even worse because now we're doom scrolling, we're looking at what other people are doing. So we're starting to exist outside of ourselves. Once we exist outside of ourselves, all of our esteem comes from the outside world because that's where we're spending our time. So what's happening is as we become more externalized, we're becoming insecure because where does confidence really come from? It doesn't come from inside. There's a big mistake a lot of people don't realize, which is if you do really well and you don't believe in yourself, you don't become secure. A lot of people think that becoming secure is about being successful. That's not the case. If you're really successful, you don't end up with security, you end up with imposter syndrome. So I went to Tufts for medical school and I did my residency training at Harvard. And what I saw is that the more successful you become, that increases the rate of imposter syndrome. There's way more imposter syndrome at Harvard than there is at the University of Texas. There's way more imposter syndrome at a place like Goldman Sachs than there is at Bank of America. So lots of success actually creates this idea that I don't really know if I can do this. Well, everyone else is so much better than me. So we see actually lots of success leads to imposter syndrome. Confidence doesn't come from success, it comes from surviving failure. It's also far more internal. So it's not something that anyone else gives you. It's like when you believe in yourself, then you're confident. And the beautiful thing is that once you believe in yourself, then other people can think whatever they want to about you. The way that you receive criticism, if you criticize an egotistical person, they will argue with you and convince you that you're wrong and call you stupid. Whereas if you're confident, someone says, hey, you're an idiot, I can say, okay, help me understand why. Like I could be
against the biggest.
Need this skill. Know that they're a snake, they're genuinely your friend. Approach them from an angle, be surprised, and for a second, you should become aware of them.
Robert Greene is one of the best-selling authors in history, an internationally renowned expert on power strategies. He's referenced in songs by Jay-Z, Kanye West, Godfather, Power Seduction Mastery.
We have this idea that if I apply myself really hard, I should be successful. And I kept noticing this blind spot that people had. They were terrible in dealing with people, and if you're not careful and constantly misread people, they could manipulate you, they could fool you. But if you follow the process that I lay out, you'll be the best team that you could ever have in your life. You're the one that tricks people with playing life. You have to learn to look behind people's masks. Being a human being means we lie, but you know what doesn't lie? It's body language. Eyes are hard language. The smile tells you 100 different things if you know how to read. But the problem that you have is you think it's a natural skill. I'm a human being, I know how to read people who don't operating in darkness, but I do believe everybody has that potential. So the first thing to do is frenemies. People have these, yes, they sabotage you, and you don't want them in your life. And one common sign of a frenemy is
It's absolutely crazy. That's so many of you decided to show, and so many of you decided to subscribe on YouTube, which is a number that I just can't comprehend. And it's a dream that I absolutely never could have had. We started at RCO just over 3 years ago now. And in my wildest expectations, we might have 100,000 subscribers by now. So you can imagine how shocked I am. And so many of you have chosen to tune into these conversations every week and spend some time with us. So thank you. Now I'm going to deal with you. I'm going to deal with you subscribe to the show, that we will continue to raise the bar. And in 2024, we're going to raise the bar like never before. I've been working for the last 9 months on a surprise for all of you that subscribe to the show, and I'm very excited to deliver that for you. The production's going to change. We're going to go even further with our guests, and we're going to tell even more global stories. So as always, if you appreciate what we're doing here, the simple, free favour I'll ask from you is to hit the subscribe button. Let's go on the episode. Robert, you wrote a book about human nature in 2018 called The Laws of Human Nature. Why did you write that book?
well, it's the fruit of a lot of experiences that I've had. So I wrote the 48 Laws of Power, and prior to that book, I was somebody who never had any power in life. I was sort of a failure. You know, I had gone through so many different jobs, and then all of a sudden I read this one book, and people are coming to me for advice. It's kind of shocking, right? And I started noticing a trend, and the trend is we live in this intense technological age where we have so much power at our fingertips, right? And it's so easy to get attention, and on and on. And we have this idea that everything in life should be easy. It's all about just, well, if I apply myself really hard, I should be successful. But I kept noticing this blind spot that people had. They were terrible in dealing with people. They were making all of these mistakes. Everybody wears a mask. You wear a mask. I wear a mask. When we're out in the public realm, we don't exactly say what we think, right? We're all a bit strategic. And if you're not careful, you're constantly saying the wrong things. You're constantly misreading people. You're doing things in your job you think you're going to impress, but they have the opposite effect. And then something bad happens and you're confused and you're emotional. There's like this circle atmosphere of pain around the globe of people suffering because they don't know how to handle the people in their lives. And because we're so virtual, we're so locked on our phones, we're becoming worse and worse at reading other people and understanding them. You know, when I sit across the room, I can see your body language, I can see your nonverbals, I can see all sorts of things. I can deal with you as a human. Well, when I spend 95% of my time behind a screen, you know, that's how I date. Basic human skills of understanding, of connecting, of empathy, of reading, they're getting hopelessly degraded. That's my long-winded answer for why I wrote that book.
If there's someone listening out there and they can relate to certain parts of what you just said, maybe it's a lack of their own self-awareness, maybe they have poor sort of awareness of others, is there a starting place to reversing that? Is there maybe the most important skill that we need to master as the foundation of that transformation?
Yeah, it's very simple. It's to get down on your hands and knees and realize you're bad at dealing with people. The problem that you have is you think that it's a natural skill. Yeah, okay, and I just kind of wing it. I understand what I'm doing. I'm a human being. I know how to read people. So you don't. You're operating in darkness. You're groping around. Just realize, first of all, that you need this skill. And once you realize that, the first thing you do is you look inward. You look at your own nature. You look at the things that I write about in the book about narcissism, about irrationality, and instead of searching for the people around you in those categories, look at yourself. So it all begins with self-awareness. You are the best subject of human nature. So when I was writing this book, it was actually quite painful. So I'm writing a chapter on narcissism. One of the longest chapters in the book. It's a very important subject. And I'm telling myself, Robert, you're quite a narcissist. You didn't think of yourself that way, but you have all these classic tendencies that you're writing about in the book. It was painful. But in order to come to understand narcissism and other people, I had to sort of understand it myself. So step number one is, I need this knowledge. I'm actually not very good with dealing with people. It's caused me problems. Go back and review the problems and mistakes you've made. Mistakes I've made as well, many, many times. And then you realize that you want this knowledge, then you begin by looking inward. But if you think that it's not needed, that you're not, it's just, oh, it's kind of interesting, or maybe I'll sort of dabble in it, it won't mean anything to you. You have to feel that pain that you've been through in life, and it's kind of ongoing pain. It's one that I still have, even though I wrote the book, where I misread people, where I inadvertently hurt them and I didn't mean to hurt them, and I feel that and I suffer from it. So the pain that you feel, the emotions that this turns up, motivate you then to become better at understanding other people.
What if you find things in yourself, like you said, that you don't like? You find narcissism in yourself, you find darkness in yourself. What are you meant to do with that? Are you meant to heal it, resolve it?
You're meant to look at it. You're meant to confront it. I have in the book a quote from the great writer Anton Chekhov that people can't begin to change themselves until they know who they are, until they understand themselves, right? So we all want to change, we all want to be better in ourselves. But until we know who we are, until we realize our flaws and our weaknesses. So the main law of human nature, if I can summarize it, is we don't like to look at ourselves as always the other person. They're the ones with the problem. They're the ones who are aggressive or passive aggressive. They're the ones who feel envy. They're the ones who are rational. But me, oh, no, I'm a paragon of virtue. I'm always moral, I'm always good, I'm always smart, etc. So the point is to beat yourself up and go, damn, I'm an awful human being. We're all come from the same source. We all have the same ancestors. We all have the same flaws in our brain. It's not like you're exceptional as one person that doesn't have a narcissism, that doesn't have self-absorption. So realizing that you're connected to all these people, that we all have these flaws and weaknesses, is actually not a bad thing, it's a good thing. And then by examining yourself deeply, you can begin to change some of these things. You stuff like I don't go like, oh, damn, I'm a narcissist. I'm self-absorbed. I think a lot about myself. I love talking about myself. It's something I'm afraid I do like to do. Right? The point isn't, well, I'm just depressed. There's nothing I can do. Once I'm aware of it, I can begin to change it. But if I'm always repressing it, if I'm always thinking, no, I'm good, I don't have those problems, then if you can't see them, how can you change them? How can you deal with them? How can you become a better person? How can you change those qualities that you don't want? One of the most important things in the laws of human nature is that you have patterns, that you are compulsive. It comes from your character. These patterns that you see in your intimate relationships. You always fall for the wrong person, or you sometimes fall for the wrong person. You see it in your world. I make these mistakes, I get fired for this reason, etc., etc. And they're good patterns. But we tend to repeat over and over and over again these sort of compulsive behavior. Being aware of these patterns, being aware of these things, you can now begin to, you have the power to change them.
A lot of people climb the mountain of awareness, and they get thinking about people in their life that climb the mountain of awareness, having their life, things I'm aware of, darkness I'm really not aware of, challenges, patterns I'm aware of, taking the next step from, so I think becoming aware is painful, and then doing something about it is difficult. It's painful because there's a lot of cognitive dissonance associated with figuring out that you're not who you want to be, and then something about it requires breaking what feels like old neurological pathways in my brain, trigger, you think about the habit cycle, breaking that is difficult.
I look at it very differently, I'm afraid. So I think actually it's worse when you're not aware of who you are. When you walk around in this world with all these false ideas about who you are, you don't even know who you are. You're wearing this mask, you're not authentic. You're behaving in the world as if you're somebody else. And you're not aware of that. When it's causing you pain, it's making you suffer because you're not aware of the real person you are. You're not authentic. And coming to terms with some of these dark qualities is actually a very enlightening experience. It's actually being euphoric. You go, I am an animal. I'm not the saint. I'm not this paragon that I thought it was. I'm an animal with flaws. I can embrace that. We're all like that. And it's a good thing. And feeling like you have this and you're coming to terms with it. I have a chapter on the dark side of human nature. Everybody has a shadow side. I have it, you have it, right? And seeing that shadow side, which is something you've been repressing since childhood, and then confronting with it, is actually one of the most wonderful experiences you can have in life. Because repressing all of these things is what is making you miserable in life. But coming to terms with who you are and being aware of it is actually liberating,
Where does it come from? Dark side, which chapter in the book?
Well, I think it comes from childhood. So when you're a child, when you're 3 or 4 years old, you're like this complete person. I compare it to like this round ball. You have good qualities. You have...
Recently, I've been invited on a bunch of podcasts, and so Dr. K has been exposed to a lot of different people. So we're seeing a lot of new people come into our community. And what I'd love to do today is share my perspective on meditation, which is a core part of who we are and help other people understand how to make meditation easy. And effective for you. So today we're going to talk a little bit about why it's hard for most people to meditate and my approach to meditation.
Good
Good evening. I'm Tom Zaleski.
And I'm Michelle McCormack. Former President Donald Trump brought Packers legend Brett Favre back to Green Bay with less than a week before Election Day.
We have team coverage tonight, starting with Local 5's Timothy Latour.
Former President Donald Trump gave the crowd for attacks was employee supplies by swapping his suit for electric safety vest in response to President Joe Biden calling Trump supporters garbage.
250 million Americans are not garbage. And one of my people came in and said, sir, you know, the word garbage is the hottest thing right now. Sir, would you like to drive a garbage truck?
Wisconsin Republican candidates are in favor of Trump's brand entrance. This time wins out to make the final push to voters.
A lot of humor, obviously, him driving in with a garbage truck vest on, making light of, but, you know, a very derogatory comment.
People are ready for leadership and strong leader like President Trump. And female supporters want everyone to know that Trump is a man all people can count on.
I love Trump, always have. Even before my husband. Make that clear. That sometimes women are for Trump first.
He's on it. He's funny. He's precise on his plans.
As for Trump's travel plans, former Wisconsin Governor Tommy Thompson says that he's the one at the wheel.
Reason he's here is because of me. Listen, you have a rally in Green Bay and a rally in Milwaukee.
Trump will be back in Wisconsin when he hosts a rally in Milwaukee on Friday evening. And as well, Timothy Latour, Local 5 News.
Election day is less than a week away, so it's time for the candidates to offer their closing arguments. Donald Trump held a rally at Madison Square Garden that attacked Puerto Ricans, blacks, Jews, women, Asians, Samoans, immigrants. And last night, Kamala Harris went in a different direction.
The White House illuminated behind her and in front of 75,000 supporters. Vice President Harris delivered her closing message. America, for too long, we have been consumed with too much division, chaos, and mutual distrust. And it can be easy then to forget a simple truth. It doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. It is time to stop pointing fingers. We have to stop pointing fingers and start locking arms.
Yeah, you fingers, it's all time. That was Kamala's closing argument. Stop all the finger pointing, you babies, and heal the divisions like empathetic adults. Now, time for her to sit back and let the positive vibes emanate across the nation.
President Biden makes comments about Trump supporters calling them, quote, garbage.
Joe Biden's garbage gaffe, a political headache for Vice President Kamala Harris.
Just completely changed the narrative from where it was 24 hours ago. He was clearly disparaging a whole group of people, more than half of this nation.
I do not even think during the American Civil War, Abraham Lincoln called the people of Confederacy garbage.
Wait, hang on. Joe Biden is still the president? And what, he's worse than a civil war? What the hell is going on? I mean, calling Trump supporters garbage right before the election feels like a crazy thing to say, even if you believe that. I mean, just wait 6 more days, man. I want to know, what did he actually say?
Just the other day, a speaker at his rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. No, like garbage actually floating out there as his supporters. His demonization is unconscionable. It's un-American.
Okay, I guess it's unclear if he's calling Trump supporters garbage or just the guy who called Puerto Rico garbage. I don't know, maybe more context will give us some more clarity. What did he say just before this?
Well, let me tell you something. I don't know the Puerto Rican that I know. Or Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware.
Oh, I see. This guy's too old and his brain is a floating pile of garbage, of course. Now, the Dems don't want to admit that the President of the United States should not be using a computer unsupervised, so they went with this explanation.
The White House very quickly tried to argue that when he used the word supporters, he wasn't talking about Trump supporters writ large, but that there was an apostrophe in there. That is what is included in the official transcript. They tried to argue that he was specifically referencing the comments from that comedian at the Madison Square Garden rally on Sunday.
That's right. In the last week of the campaign, Republicans are calling for a roundup of immigrants, and Democrats are like, you have to put the apostrophe in the right place. This election is really coming down to Nazis versus grammar Nazis. And if Democrats are relying on Americans to understand how apostrophes work, then this election is because have you ever seen a sign outside a bar? I mean, they basically use apostrophe to mean here comes an ass. And Republicans aren't accepting any of these excuses because they don't know what an apostrophe is. And they think it's intentional that Biden called them garbage. And they could not be more excited because Republicans have been under fire for their garbage thing. And now they're like, yes, Biden's garbage thing cancels out our garbage thing, so now we're back to neutral. I mean, just look how excited Marco Rubio was when he got to interrupt a Trump rally to tell Trump the news.
Well, I wasn't going to say anything, but I have breaking news for you, Mr. President. You may not have heard this. Just moments ago, Joe Biden stated that our supporters are garbage.
Look how excited Rubio is. Everybody, look, I have great news. We are garbage. I mean, Rubio delivered that news like he was announcing a war is over. And you can tell how excited Trump is because his face is at full orange alert. This was Trump in such a good mood that he briefly found religion.
That's what it says. That's what it says. But he doesn't know. You have to please forgive him. Please forgive him. For he not knoweth what he said.
He not knoweth what he said. Someone's been reading an Instagram quote about the Bible. I mean, Trump should speak like this more. It makes it sound kind of wise. Like, thou art eating thy cats and thou art eating thy dogs. Now, obviously, Republicans are happy to hit Democrats with this Biden gap, and obviously the media is excited to cover a garbage fight. And I guess that's what we're going to talk about for the last week of the election. And that's fine, because it's not like anyone said anything that might have a bigger impact on our lives.
The key that I think that President Trump has promised me is control of the public health agencies, which are HHS and some agencies, CDC, FDA, NIH, and a few others, and then also the USDA, which is key to making America healthy.
Great. That sounds like the healthiest man in America.
You know, Tom, it sound like less when I'm in charge of everything.
To be fair, RFK Jr. is actually pretty healthy. I mean, he's 70 years old, and that's like 850 in Kennedy years. But still, how is this guy going to be in charge of food quality? I mean, they found a dead worm in his brain, so even his skull can't get a higher rating than a C. Of all the characters in this election, this guy is the scariest, because he doesn't believe in vaccines or pasteurizing milk. He thinks antidepressants cause school shootings, and that COVID was engineered to not affect Jews, and he thinks chemicals in the water make kids trans. And Trump is going to put him in charge of all the health and food and medicine. I mean, surely Trump will at least put some limits on what he can do, right? Like, Donald, you're not going to just let this guy go wild, are you?
I'm going to let him go wild on health. I'm going to let him go wild on the food. I'm going to let him go wild on medicine.
Wait, how are you going to let him go wild on medicine? Like, what, you going to let him dip his balls in the cough syrup? More on what RFK could do in a Trump presidency. Let's go live to CDC headquarters with Tony Klepper. reaction to Joe Biden's gas? RFK running the CDC sounds like a much bigger deal.
Good question, Ronnie. It's because focusing on institutions like the CDC is what we in the media call boring. No one wants to hear the overly complex details about how RFK is going to unvaccinate people by clamping down on their arms and sucking out their injections like a snake bite.
Wait, would that even work?
Well, you're getting lost in the weeds, Ronnie. The real scoop is that this morning, Joe Biden said he hopes Kamala becomes president of the United States. President? Are you kidding me? What is going on here? Well, I promise to get to the bottom of it in my new primetime special, All the President's Men.
Wait, Jordan, sorry. Can we go back to, what was that thing you said about RFK doing my vaccinations?
I don't know. I zoned out. It was something about summoning the power of the U.S. military to go door to door and yada, yada, yada. I don't know.
Wait, military? What do you mean RFK will have access to like tanks and shit?
I don't know. I didn't ask too many follow-ups because there's so much Joe Biden news coming out. Like this afternoon, Biden said we need to respect the will of the voters. The voters? What? This guy is all in for 1%.
Okay, Jordan, I mean, it's obvious that he meant the voters.
Ooh, controversy. Now we're really getting into it. We'll find out more in my two-part special. Vote or die. Will democracy singers win?
Jordan, no one cares about these gas or dumb specials, okay? How about the issues that are gonna affect day-to-day life? RFK Jr. could be in charge of, like, school lunches.
True. Although I won't worry too much about that. RFK told me that instead of school lunch, kids will forage for bear meat in Central Park.
Okay, that sounds incredibly unhealthy.
If you find a bad bear, sure.
Okay, they talk about how he's gonna implement this.
I don't know. It's not my job to ask.
It is. The media is literally the one thing you're supposed to do. They stop getting distracted by all this meaningless Biden shit and focus on informing the people on the issues that matter.
Wow. Hard truths, Ronnie. Hard truths. No, you're right. I need to focus more on truly informing the public. And I'll do so in my new 3-part miniseries. A complex look at RFK's history of intervention within the medical system, undermining public trust in our institutions while paving the way for the current national anti-science movement.
Yeah, that sounds a little boring.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Forget it. Check out my 12-part retrospective on that one time Biden mispronounced SCOTUS as scrotum. All in your court in American story.
All right, that's the media. Go to everybody. Despair week. Democrats have gone from the despair of a certain Trump presidency to the joy of a statistical tie. Right now, that feels like victory. The prospect of her candidacy has injected enthusiasm and energy. She's received a tsunami of grassroots support and cash. She's raised a staggering $200 million since President Biden dropped out.
It's a Zoom world record. More than 100,000 white women mobilized for Vice President Kamala Harris.
100,000 white women. That is a giant group of white women. I believe the scientific term is actually a group of women. That's called a group of women. $200 million they've raised. A united, enthusiastic Democratic Party. A huge reversal in 1 week. And they said it couldn't be done.
Joe Biden is looking the nominee.
This is fantasy stuff. This is good for TV. But Biden's not going anywhere. This is not an Aaron Sorkin West Wing episode here. This is real life. Joe Biden is our nominee, and he will be our nominee. We literally have 3 choices as Democrats. Either you vote for Donald Trump, you vote for Joe Biden, or you stay on the couch. I think we know which one of those options J.D. Vance did on. Even I don't feel good about that, Joe. What do I know? A simple pink pony grandpa. The reference to being a Chapel Roan fan, which I totally am. Listen, man, the pundits all said it couldn't happen, but it did happen, and the Republicans are not very happy about it.
They just hero democracy.
The Democrats are trying to hijack democracy. The ultimate election interference. This was a coup inside the Democratic Party. A coup d'etat, a bloodless coup.
Chris is crying like, guys. Is that shit? Because they Get the out of here. What's your deal? Unavailable. What the fuck is this shit, dude? What the fuck is this shit?
It's only cash.
Only cash? Oh, I have DoorDash.
Okay, that is one.
Okay. Yeah. Andrew. That's everything? Yeah. Oh, there you go. What's new, pussycat? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Pound 25. Ugh.
What happens when a great podcast, Tino and Bob, together these comedy students with truth, and then in the end, I'll talk fix huge guest. Knock, knock. May I come in? The fact is that they blasted their way into the house. They had a beautiful big hole in their man, and they got everybody by surprise.
What are you doing? Did Trump only just learn how soldiers work? Listen, these guys are amazing. They got these chameleon suits and big shooties and blasties. They don't say knock, knock. No, they don't do that like a normal person. They don't do big, beautiful holes, and they shout surprise. I'm not learning about this for the first time. This is new to a lot of people. But wait, because you don't get out, Trump paid tribute to one crucial member of the team.
Martinez, they call him. I call it the dog.
That's right. I call them dogs, not like other people who call them furry lizards or barking cats or elephants but smaller and different. To me, they are and forever will be dogs. That's my term for them that I made up. And look, what Baghdadi being gone is clearly great news. I'd actually like to focus tonight on a different decision Trump recently made in the same region, and one that I would argue could have more long-term ramifications, and which tells us much more about his decision-making as commander-in-chief. It's a move that alarms many, even his cheerleaders on Fox and Friends.
The United States is going to start pulling troops from Turkey's border in Syria. That announcement last night is stunning. The White House says it's clearing the way for Turkish troops to invade.
A disastrous series of events. I hope the president will rethink this. Wow, you know things are bad for Trump when he's even lost the support of Fox and Friends, a show whose actual slogan is President Trump's dick is 17 inches long and fingers are That's no real slogan. Now, very basically, what happened here was Trump suddenly, and against the counsel of nearly all his advisors, pulled back troops along the Syria-Turkey border here who had been working with Kurdish-led forces to contain ISIS. And it wasn't just that. Our presence there also helped protect Kurdish civilians from Turkey, ISIS, and the Syrian government. And our troop withdrawal has had immediate consequences. Turkish forces moved in almost as soon as we left, and over 100 civilians have been killed, with nearly 200,000 displaced. It has been a catastrophe. And this move has been nearly universally condemned. It's been criticized by everyone, from Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren to Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham, the last of whom did not mince his words.
To abandon these people is a real shit show, and I'm hoping President Trump will reconsider. He's about to make the biggest mistake of his presidency, I just.
A shit show. Well, to be fair, Lindsey Graham always looks like he's just said that exact phrase. You know, I come into this Bojangles every Sunday, and I have never seen service like this. The magic in his name. Now, biscuit is cold. My day is ruined, people. This is a real shit show right here. I will take that over to go. And the consequences of the decision of that done, and the condemnation of that widespread, it feels like it might be worth asking what exactly happened. Why did Trump decide to do it, and what might the ramifications be going forward? So let's start with what happened. Now, obviously, the situation in Syria is incredibly complex. You can be forgiven for not fully understanding it. What is much less forgivable is pretending to understand it when you clearly don't.
It's a very semi-complicated, not too complicated if you're smart, but it's a semi-complicated problem.
Oh, good. It's only semi-complicated, is it? I forgot that Trump spent the 90s with the senior fellow of the Middle Eastern Studies at the Foreign Policy Research Institute, and not, as I clearly wrongly remembered, losing all his dad's money and trying unsuccessfully to bang Madonna. I forgot that, because clearly you're not smart like him. Look, there are more factions involved here than we have time to cover, but the important group to know about are the Kurds. There are about 30 million of them in the region spread mostly across Syria, Turkey, Iraq, and Iraq. They are the largest ethnic group in the world without a country of their own. So they're a minority wherever they live, putting them in a precarious situation. But it's important to know they have been close military allies with America in the past, which is why it was so odd to hear Trump justify abandoning them like this.
Somebody wrote a very, very powerful article today. They didn't help us in the Second World War. They didn't help us with Normandy as an example. They mentioned names of different battles. They were there to help us with their land, and that's a different thing.
Hold on, let me get this straight. You are mad because the Kurds didn't help the US fight in Normandy? Quick question, the fuck does that have to do with anything? Now, there were also no Kurds at the Battle of Gettysburg, or helping us get to the moon, or suspiciously Kurdless missions. Where were the Kurds? Neil could have used their help holding his ladder. They were all busy, were they? All of them. The fact is, the Kurds have fought multiple times to help America, including both the Gulf and Iraq wars, meaning, by the way, the Kurds fought with the US military in at least 2 more wars than Donald Trump ever fucking did. For instance, we turned to the Kurds in 2015 to help us contain ISIS in Syria. We provided training and escort, and they were the frontline troops doing the close fighting, and it was a very tight partnership. The US military trusted their allies so completely that the Kurds were soon calling in American airstrikes. It's true, the Kurds would point at something and we would blow it up. That's an incredible level of trust. If I had that power, to put it mildly, there would be no more Applebee's. They know what they did. They know what they did. Now, the Kurds' sacrifice in that fight was significant. One of the 6 Americans dying fighting in that region, the Kurds suffered 11,000 casualties. And that alliance is one of the reasons why ISIS, which controlled this much territory in Syria in 2015, has since lost all of it. In fact, a key reason we were able to take out al-Baghdadi was thanks to intelligence from the Kurds. So they fought bravely with us. And the situation in northeastern Syria was relatively stable. And then in an instant, Trump threw that all away. So why? Why did he do that? Well, to hear him tell it, it's actually pretty simple.
I don't want to be in Syria forever. It's sand, and it's death.
Okay, first, since when does Trump avoid areas of sand and death? He owns a golf club in Florida. All the average age is upholding the Civil Rights Act. The guy loves sand and death. But that is part of his reductive argument that America should not be stuck in endless wars and the troops should come home, which is at least a real, coherent foreign policy position. The problem is, the troops aren't actually coming home. Since May, we've actually increased the number of them deployed to the Middle East by 14,000. And just days after his Syria decision, Trump made a big announcement.
We are sending troops and other things to the Middle East to help Saudi Arabia. But are you ready? Saudi Arabia, at my request, has agreed to pay us for everything we're doing. That's a first.
So one, this problem is watching. They have not agreed to that. And two, even if they had, that would be a weird thing to brag about. The US military doesn't charge for protection because it isn't a mercenary force. It's the reason the eagle on the US SEAL carries arrows and an olive branch, not arrows and a credit card reader. But the idea that we'll send troops to a country that pays us is definitely in keeping with Trump's short-term, purely transactional worldview. It's the same philosophy that's led him to suggest withdrawing troops from South Korea because he thinks they're not paying us enough, or to threats to NATO because he thinks other countries aren't contributing their fair share. So look, I'm sorry, Kurds, unless you give Donald Trump something he wants, like, I don't know, Hunter Biden's email password or Melania Trump's phone number, you can apparently expect fuck all from him. So this wasn't done out of some grand principle. Why did it happen, and happen so suddenly? Well, it seems Trump's decision on a phone call with President Erdogan of Turkey, and a little context here. For years, Turkey has struggled with a Kurdish militant group called the PKK, who are unquestionably extreme. The State Department considers them a terrorist group, and Erdogan firmly believes that a Kurdish group we've been working with are basically the same as the PKK. He wants them either dead or nowhere near the Turkish border. But this isn't actually a new problem. We've been basically managing to balance our interest in containing ISIS with our need to manage Erdogan's concerns. For years now, it has been difficult, but we've basically done it. Until it seems Erdogan got on the phone with Trump earlier this month and told him he wanted to move against Kurdish forces in Syria, and Trump essentially said, fine, we'll run away there. And that is a decision that's baffled many, including Mitt Romney.
Erdogan basically said we're coming in, get out of the way, and America blinked. Am I reading that wrong?
No, Mitch, you're actually not. That's why the rest of America discovered this week that your secret Twitter account was named Pierre de Lecto. That's real. You're very much not reading that wrong. It's named Pierre de Lecto. Sounds like a name would have come up in Pulp Fiction if that conversation about French McDonald's had kept going. In France, they call the quarter pounder a Royale with cheese, and they will grimace Pierre de elected. It is truly troubling the sheer extent to which Trump has just rolled over for Erdogan. He called the Kurds, who remember, have repeatedly fought and died alongside the US military, no angels. And while at one point Trump did apparently try to prevent a Kurdish slaughter, Erdogan seemed to be pretty comfortably ignoring him.
Yesterday, a letter surfaced from President Trump to Erdogan. He warned against a Turkish military offensive and said in decidedly undiplomatic language, "Don't be a tough guy, don't be a fool." Erdogan reportedly threw away the letter and launched the assault into Syria the same day.
Holy shit! He didn't just ignore him. Erdogan threw away a piece of mail that day. That alone is ice cold. In fact, he also threw away birthday cards directly after reading them, like a monster, instead of keeping them on the kitchen counter for a week out of sense of irrational guilt and then throwing them out. Because what else are you going to do? Frame it? Of course not. It's a piece of trash, but not for a week. But even if you think Trump was right to withdraw troops from the area, it clearly makes sense to do it in a way that will cause the least damage to the region, your allies, and your own interests. But Trump did none of that. Our withdrawal was so rushed, we had to leave a lot behind. Just watch this Russian reporter wandering around a US base just hours after the troops had left.
They left here yesterday at 4 a.m. Look here. I am currently in the U.S. kitchen. American soldiers used to eat here. The fridge is full.
So not only did we dump our allies without warning, we left a refrigerator full of free Coke for whoever took our place. Although maybe the most interesting part of that video was watching a reporter blatantly ignore the fridge full of Pepsi right next to it. Because even to Russian reporters, the answer to is Pepsi okay is a resounding yet. So basically, America left the region the same way you leave a party right after you clog the toilet, quickly leaving everything behind and forcing someone else to deal with all the shit. And the consequences to this have been dire. For starters, Kurdish-led forces were in charge of guarding many ISIS prisoners, and by leaving so abruptly, we forced them to abandon their posts to fight for their lives. And the thing that any 6-year-old could tell you would happen next, happens next.
The White House is trying to downplay how many of the 10,000 ISIS prisoners in Syria may have escaped.
There were a few that got out, a small number, relatively speaking, and they've been largely recaptured.
But that's not what the president's special envoy for Syria, James Jeffrey, said on Wednesday.
We would say that the number is now over 100. We do not know where they are.
It's true. Over 100 ISIS prisoners escaped, and we don't know where they are, or at least they don't know where they are, because I have a surprise for everyone here tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, the ISIS prisoners! Oh, fuck! Oh, fuck! Oh, fuck, where are they? Oh, fuck! Oh, shit! Oh, fucking fuck! Oh, fuck! Oh, fuck! Why did we give them shovels? Does it make any sense? Anyway, as I was saying, over 100 ISIS prisoners have escaped, and we have no idea where they are. And the thing is, it gets even worse here. Because when you give a green light to an authoritarian, terrible things can happen. And terrible things very much did.
We saw for the first time alleged atrocities carried out by Turkish-backed Arab militias. This video today appears to show Arab militias executing a Kurd by the roadside as they shout Allahu Akbar and proudly say, "Film me, film me."
That is horrifying, a potential war crime, and completely avoidable. Yet astonishingly, even in the face of scenes like that, and over 100 civilian deaths, remember, Trump has actually tried to spin the carnage as evidence of his tactical genius.
It was unconventional what I did. I said, they're gonna have to fight a little while. Sometimes you have to let them fight a little while. Then people find out how tough the fighting is. Sometimes you have to let them fight. It's like two kids in a lot. You gotta let them fight, then you pull them apart.
The fuck are you talking about? That is not true for Syria, and it's also not true for kids, you weird monster. Trump just revealed what we essentially always know. He's not just a shitty president and a shitty person. He's a shitty dad. Thank God he never had to raise any children. Now, thankfully, the worst of the violence appears to have abated, at least for the moment, but that is largely because after the US left a power vacuum in the region, another major player stepped in.
Russia's Vladimir Putin tonight became the new kingmaker in Syria as he and Turkey's President Erdogan carved up the country between them.
Exactly. Putin now has a larger foothold in the region, and the Kurdish fighters, who were once allied with us for so long, have now flipped sides and struck a deal with Syria's Bashar al-Assad to avoid being wiped out. So, Trump has made a snap decision where the big winners are Putin, Erdogan, Assad, and ISIS. And that is a group that you do not want to be friendly with, although I believe they were all in the Cowboys game together this weekend. Look, we're all different, and that's okay. But Trump may not be bothered particularly that he's empowered so many authoritarian leaders, because we know he has a soft spot for them. In fact, even after Erdogan disregarded Trump's warnings and launched a bloody campaign, once he agreed to a temporary ceasefire, Trump went straight back to effusively praising him.
I just want to thank and congratulate, though, President Erdogan. He's a friend of mine, and I'm glad we didn't have a problem, because frankly, he's a hell of a leader, and he's a tough man, he's a strong man, and he did the right thing.
Yeah, he's a strong man. He's a strong man. That's not a fucking compliment. That's a synonym for dictator. And that image might actually sum up the insanity of this whole situation. The president, thinking he's projecting strength, obsequiously fawning over an authoritarian for deigning to pause a slaughter that the president himself had enabled. And look, I know that it is so easy to criticize anyone's policy in this region. It is very complicated. Any move is going to have ripple effects, intended or otherwise. Syria was one of the biggest problem spots in Obama's foreign policy, so I'm not saying that it is easy or even possible to get a situation this difficult completely right, but it's genuinely hard to get it this wrong. We took a fundamentally stable situation, betrayed a strategically vital ally, and immensely damaged our reputation. Just watch how the Kurds treated a US convoy leaving the country.
Kurdish civilians, until now, close U.S. allies, throwing potatoes and yelling insults at American troops ordered out of Syria. These images tonight show one of the lowest moments of America's reputation in the Middle East in years.
Think about what he just said there. One of the lowest moments of America's reputation in the Middle East. And remember, a guy in the Middle East once took off his shoe, threw it at the president, and then, while the people around him watched, took off his other shoe and also threw that at the president. Look, the more you look at all of this, the more worrying it gets, because this was an unforced error. Trump chose to do something this sudden, this impetuous, and this damaging, and he's just not going to change. So imagine what he might do in a crisis not of his own making. That is one of the many terrifying things about the prospect of a second term, or indeed the remaining year of this first one. Because there is nothing more dangerous than someone with a massive amount of power, a dictator fetish, and an inability to think in anything but transactional terms, and who is stupid enough to think that this is all not too complicated if you are smart. Dive straight into our main story tonight. This is our final show of the year, so we thought we'd focus on someone who's had a pretty big 12 months. Elon Musk. A man who can pull off pretty much any bad guy in a movie look. There's a Lex Luthor posing for the cover of Metropolis Maniacs Monthly. There's I Know Mr. Bond, I and my child's bride expect you to die. There's I just bought your media company, I'm about to strip you for parts. There's Space's first racist sheriff. And finally, the less fuckable reimagining of Billy Zane's character in Titanic. Truly, the man has range. Elon has made news all year, from Tesla launching the most powerful rocket ever built, to just this week having to recall 2 million cars due to safety concerns. He even challenged Mark Zuckerberg to a cage fight. To which Zuckerberg replied,
send me location. And I also guessed both of them. Interior, volcano. And then, of course, there is Twitter. He now calls it X, but the rest of us still call it Twitter. He officially got it 12 months ago, and since then, it has been one fiasco after another, with the most recent coming when he tweeted his agreement with this anti-Semitic post, calling the Great Replacement Theory the actual truth. That caused many big advertisers to flee. And then, in the midst of denying any anti-Semitic intent, Elon decided to taunt the sponsors who had left.
Don't advertise. You don't want to advertise? No. Why not? It's just different. Black with advertising. That no is money. Fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. Is that clear? Wow. It's hard to say what's most embarrassing there. The fact that the world's richest man baby, you're not breaking up with me, I'm breaking up with you. Or that he's doing it to confuse silence while wearing a jacket from Ralph Lauren's midlife crisis collection. He's clearly going full bad boy there, but ended up looking more like red pill shit from Rescue Rangers. Now, that claim actually made the rounds, but for my money, this exchange a few seconds later is even better.
Yeah, I did a mobile order for Danny. Yeah. I'm on it. Thank you. There you go.
Congress would shut us down. If we cost one starship, go home, 6 or however many, we can't do that. SpaceX began with a big gap, and a flirtation with Tesla became a massive success, and that pattern persisted with Tesla. That company was funding part by pre-selling cars to future owners, only to repeated production delays and spiraling costs. Just watch Musk at one meeting of those early buyers, when he told them the price had gone up on the cars that they'd already bought. We took faith in you, and now you're just turning around, taking the price of us, not telling us that we're fighting backwards, and now we haven't been hurt because we weren't told.
We can't sell cars for, less than it cost us to produce. If anything, what we had more than that, then it was an accident. Okay. There's a little bit of anger from some people in the room who felt that we kind of done a bait and switch. And I guess it's sort of a little bit true that there was sort of a bait and switch. That's kind of what happened. It's very tough.
Yeah, you can see how baiting customers with one price and switching it for another might be considered a bait and switch. There's actually a great econ book on the subject entitled Words Me, What Words Me? And yet, Tesla's now a big success, with factories on 3 continents delivering over 1 million vehicles a year. Meanwhile, SpaceX is funding around 150 million, making one of the most valuable private companies in the world. Although it is worth noting that his boldness sometimes comes with the tendency to overpromise and show off products long before they are ready. Like 2019, when Musk decided to demonstrate how indestructible the new Cybertruck was by having its chief designer chuck a steel ball at its window.
Ron, can you try to make this last, please? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, maybe that was a little too hard.
Yeah, not great, but also kind of charming. There is something I kind of like about the Cybertruck. I mean, I don't want to own one or drive near one. It's basically a 7,000 pound smushed up refrigerator moving at 60 miles an hour being driven by odds are a real piece of shit. But there is something appealing about a man so passionate about his idea. These willing to ignore questions about aesthetics, performance, durability, practicality, safety, and go on and actually wants to spend up to $100,000 to drive every child's first attempt at drawing a car and build it anyway. And that's not his only embarrassing product launch. 2 years ago, he introduced a Tesla robot by showcasing a prototype who was just a dancer in a robot bodysuit. And it was exactly as dumb as that sounds. Absolutely love it. Apparently, all you have to do to launch a robotics company is invest in a spandex bodysuit and a dancer song with that in mind. Behold, my new creation. You powered out, robot. Thank you for your service. Embarrassing moments aside, there is a lot to like about Elon's companies. SpaceX has made real achievements like reusable rocket technology and making space easier and more affordable to access. Tesla has pushed also made to take electric cars seriously in a way that would have seemed impossible 20 years ago. But one of Elon's critics point out there are costs to that progress that often get overlooked.
Is Elon Musk a net positive for society? I would argue he is. I think the EV race is a great thing. Space exploration is really hopeful and just kind of inspiring. The problem is with the word net, and that is once we decide an individual or a company is a net good for society, we don't want to hold him or the company accountable for anything.
Right. Even if you think Elon is a net positive, it doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about the harm he's doing along the way. And let's start with his employees. Many of whom call Elon a nightmare to work for. And not just at Twitter where he fired most of the staff and all of the rest of working quotes extremely hardcore mode. He's been like this at every company. Is this early employee at SpaceX on the test?
It was not unusual to have a phone call from him at 3 in the morning on your cell phone. You better, by God, have that next to your bed to answer. He's just gone into yelling fits against me, telling me I'm stupid and I don't know what I'm talking about. And I've seen him do it to other very intelligent people. So he'll definitely find your weakness in your personality, in your character, in your spirit. And I wouldn't say exploit it, but you'll definitely crack.
Well, that sounds unpleasant. Not just your boss calling to abuse you, but because there are only two reasons someone should be calling you at 3 in the morning. And they are because A, a loved one is having an emergency and needs your help, or your house is on fire, and even then, it could have been a text. And the damage isn't just emotional. Workers in the factories complain of immense pressure and unrealistic deadlines. A report a few years ago on his Tesla factory in Fremont, California found employees complaining that style and speed trumped safety, and the workers there are being sliced by machinery, crushed by forklifts, burned in electrical explosions, and sprayed with molten metal. One worker even complained that she'd been told Elon didn't want signs or anything yellow like caution tape in the factory, which isn't good, because caution tape is important. It lets people know something might be dangerous and unstable, like a skull and crossbones on a bottle, or this jacket on a middle-aged man. Now, Tesla does deny that, but its claims about its factories can be hard to verify. Even when regulators try to get involved at Musk's companies, they can be strongly resisted. For example, his Nevada Gigafactory at one point denied entry to state ocean inspectors for nearly 3 months, which is ridiculous. The word Gigafactory alone should be enough to warrant an immediate inspection. But it's not just workers who must be willing to put out this. Sometimes it's his own customers. It's only developed self-driving car technology and sometimes knowingly exaggerating its capabilities. The two pieces of software available are called autopilot and full self-driving, but despite their names, neither system can drive a car on its own. Yet, in its 2016 ad, it appears to be doing just that, amplified by the introductory text that Elon personally asked for, which reads, the car is driving itself. But that was extremely misleading. He was driving along a pre-planned route. It was only self-driving when your Nana self-drives herself up and down the stairs. And Tesla will note, they tell drivers they should keep their hands on the wheel and take over if anything goes wrong. And I sure hope drivers do that, because he's been inviting them to try out full self-driving in beta mode, basically having drivers find the bugs in new software, even on complicated city streets, and with predictable results.
We're gonna make this left turn. And I'm getting on that. But now just turn right. I'm supposed to go left.
Odin is not a professional test driver, nor is he a Tesla employee. Instead, he's one of the over 50,000 customers that Tesla has allowed to access FSD beta.
We just ran a red light.
That is pretty alarming, especially when you see people pushing a stroller way too close to that car. Because even if Tesla drivers volunteered to take part in this high-stakes experiment, the people around them sure didn't. No one would push it up on their phone saying, hey, Tesla here, please take part in the beta test that's currently hurriedly towards you. Do hurry, time is a factor. And Musk has taken a pretty blind attitude towards self-driving deaths. In 2016, when concerns were first emerging, he told reporters that if they wrote stories that dissuaded people from using autonomous driving systems or regulators from approving them, then they would be killing people. He said he argued that any deaths in the present day will be more than offset by lives saved later. And just this week, when the Washington Post noted that they tally about 40 fatal or serious crashes involving Tesla's driver-assistant software. Tesla responded by saying, we believe it is morally indefensible not to make these systems available to a wider set of consumers, given the incontrovertible data that shows it's saving lives and preventing injury. But rather than producing that data, they promised more detailed information will be publicly available in the near future, which I'm sorry, it's just not data bitch behavior. And that is coming from TV's #1 data bitch. Anyone who collects incontrovertible data will give you a more specific date. That typical data bitches, as we all know, are also calendar bitches. And look, I know myself, and look, history is littered with types of business who are shitty or broken people. Thomas Edison from Henry Ford through Steve Jobs. The difference is, by and large, they didn't open up their brain to let the whole world have a constant look inside, but Elon does. And the glimpses we get can be terrifying, and that brings us back to Twitter. Musk has been a heavy user for years, putting out classic tweets like, I put the art in fart. 69 days after 420 again, haha. And technically, alcohol is a solution, which technically isn't a joke. And his biographer will tell you he's addicted to the app to a genuinely problematic extent.
One day he was traveling with a friend, Antonio Gracias, and Musk had kept tweeting late at night, doing these ridiculous tweets, sometimes very harmful ones. And so the friend said, let me take your phone, and I'm going to put it in the safe here in the hotel room. The friend punches in the code, and said, that way you can't use it late at night. At 3 in the morning, Musk calls hotel security to get him to open the safe, and he starts doing tweets. He was addicted to tweeting.
Look, I'm sure when the average security guard is called up to a billionaire's hotel room at 3 a.m., they have a list of things to expect, and it begins and ends with dead bodies. So it must have been a pleasant surprise when he wheeled an empty garbage bin into the room, only to find Elon Musk punching random numbers into his hotel safe, just as he thought that I put the art in fart, and the whole world simply had to know. And look, Elon's tweets were never that great, not like mine, of course, which are banger after banger after banger after certified banger. I don't miss. But in recent years, they've taken a turn toward the nasty and conspiratorial, getting increasingly into the realm of right-wing trolls. And many point to one particular moment as the turning point here, the pandemic lockdowns.
California is 14 million
million residents are in lockdown.
At the time, the government had ordered Musk to close his Tesla factories in California.
He was pissed that his factories were forced to
Yes,
close.
ultimately, yes, that's the thing. He wanted them there and he wanted them working. He thought it was an existential crisis if Tesla didn't succeed. He really, for the world, for all of us. And then it got weird.
Free America now. People get free space in California have been half empty without any time back their freedom. Musk told his employees that he intended to defy orders and go to work.
CEO Elon Musk tweeted, I will be on the line with everyone else. Anyone is arrested, I ask that it only be me. Okay, well, that really drives home is just how different Musk is from the rest of us. Because there's rich and detached, and then there's, I'll ask the cops not to arrest anyone else, so we should be good, rich and detached. And look, let's admit, a lot of our brains got a bit broken during the pandemic. I think we can all agree that it'd be really cool if the entirety of the pandemic chapter in future history textbooks simply read, we had time, had to be there, we did our best. But Elon didn't challenge anxiety one of the normal ways, spraying groceries with disinfectant, getting really into sourdough bread baking, or tracking down a person in one of a kind of rats in a box. Normal stuff that we all did. Instead, his brain broke in the direction of right-wingers who allowed him opposing the shutdown. And once he started siding with them over those complaints, he found himself sympathizing with their broader concerns about a woke mind virus, so that they were being mocked and shadow banned and generally disrespected by Twitter. And since he was also the richest man in the world, he could fix all this by simply buying the whole thing, which is what he then did. And I don't have time to run through every bad decision that he's made at Twitter, although, real quick, he cut about 80% of the staff, dissolved the Trust and Safety Council, built the verification system, exercised the same censorship he made against, reactivated the accounts of various white supremacists, released the Twitter files in which he basically mistook the emails of various feckless, left-leaning tech weenies struggling with the impossible job of content moderation for a vast elite conspiracy to silence right-wing dipshits, changed the name to X, put a gigantic X on the building, which he then took down, and just this week reversed his earning decision and let Alex Jones back onto the site. A decision that's been met with resounding praise from big loud fucks quarterly. And notably, his time in charge of Twitter has seen a rise in unpleasant rhetoric from Musk himself, including boosting a transphobic documentary saying every parent should watch this, responding interested to tweet reading blacks kill each other, whites kill themselves, and boosting this obviously falsely implying that there had been a cover-up about Pizzagate. I didn't think it was possible, but it genuinely makes me miss the man who once posted, send me your dankest memes, and this picture of a turtle on wheels with the message, science has gone too far. And while Elon will dispute there has been a rise in hate speech on the platform or that he has pandered to white nationalists, you know who disagrees with him on that? White nationalists. Just listen to Nick Wentz telling Richard Spencer everything Elon has done for their movement.
It's only been a year since Musk acquired Twitter, which is not really a long time, and the changes didn't even begin to roll out until less than a year ago, and yet the change has been dramatic. How much the window has shifted noticeably on issues like white identity, which apparently is suddenly mainstream. It wasn't for a long time. It seemed like Charlie Kirk said one or two things about it last year, and then this year, now everyone's a white nationalist. Now everyone's a white identitarian. You open up one of the social platforms, it's so hot, it's so fast, it changes public opinion virtually overnight, and really in our favor.
Wow, all of that is horrifying, but please know, one identitarian is just not fooling anyone. That's why the word racist writes on a job application to make it sound like he went to college. And the fact that Elon seems to be getting increasingly radicalized is a big problem because we put a lot of power into his hands, and much more than you may realize. Remember when I said that nobody's taking the big swings that he is? That includes the government. And over the years, that means a lot of things that this country relies on have been outsourced to Musk. Every day, Musk's companies control all the internet, power grid, transportation system, objects in orbit, the nation's security infrastructure, and its energy supply. To take just one example, SpaceX has now put more than 4,500 Starlink satellites into orbit, meaning that Musk's company now accounts for over half of all active satellites. And that puts the US government in a bit of a bind. Just watch a National Security Council spokesman try to explain why it wouldn't be acting in response to Elon's boosting on that great replacement theory tweet.
There's an eviction out there in the private sector that we'd be foolish to walk away from. I'm not aware of any specific efforts to address our concerns over his rhetoric, but that doesn't mean that we accept or agree with or condone in any way that anti-Semitic rhetoric that he pushed.
Yeah, we're now at the point where the government is explicitly saying we chose to look the other way on the anti-Semitism thing, which is more commonly known as Daddy's Home too. And the problem isn't just the optics of having someone as erratic as Elon in charge of half the world's satellites. His opinions can change the shape of world events. When Russia invaded Ukraine, their first action was to sever its internet access. And Musk, to his credit, agreed to provide Ukraine access to his Starlink network and donated hardware, enabling them to reach the internet via satellite. And they were very grateful.
Lieutenant Taras Bererovets is a spokesman for Ukraine's military. He told us Starlink is crucial for commanding troops on the battlefield.
We've been so grateful to SpaceX and to Elon Musk. Without Starlink, none of our offensives would be so successful.
It's true. The Ukrainian military was grateful to SpaceX and Elon Musk, which is one of those headlines that even a few years ago would have sounded impossible, like Panera Bread's lemonade linked to second death, and Henry Kissinger finally dead. So by the way, I'm pretty sure it's the lemonade that got him. But as time went on, Elon toyed with the idea of withdrawing Starlink service, complaining that the cost was too high, even as he seemed increasingly Russia-friendly. At one point, he said Russia should be allowed to annex Ukrainian land, and tweeted a proposed peace plan that would essentially just give Russia everything they wanted. Perhaps most notably, he refused the Ukrainian request to activate Starlink in Crimea, enabling them to launch an attack on Russian ships, reportedly, because a Russian official warned him that could lead to a nuclear response. I guess that must be true, right? What are Russian officials going to do? Lie to an easily flattered CEO to get exactly what they want? I don't see it. And look, Elon still insists that he is pro-Ukraine, and okay, but US officials are now in the awkward position of having to defer to him on policy. One Pentagon spokesman even said that he let a reporter interview an official only if Musk gave permission, saying, we'll talk to you if Elon wants us to, which isn't great. Now, before I respond on behalf of the mightiest military on Earth, let me just run this up the chain and make sure it's cool with Admiral Dag Ming's 420. Elon Musk could not have humiliated the Pentagon anymore if he opened up his own building next door called the Hexagon, the Pentagon that fucks. Now, the Pentagon has since signed a contract with Starlink to take over certain services and rely less on Musk's whim, but even Elon's own biographer is about just how important he's become.
So, how does Elon feel about having this much global power?
You know, he says to me, how am I in the middle of this? But frankly, he loves it. He loves drama. He loves being the young hero. I think it is a little bit dangerous because he loves it too much.
Wait, he loves drama? I'm sorry, I'm really not that comfortable with one of the most powerful people on Earth being summed up the same way you described Andy Cohen on New Year's Eve. Look, the fact is, whether we like it or not, and the answer is absolutely not, a huge number of very important things going forward are going to depend on how Elon is feeling, which is a terrifying thing to say about anyone, but especially this guy. So what can be done? Well, it's actually simple. Just create a robust infrastructure economy that can resist easy monopolization by private firms headed by overconfident billionaires, and we do it about 15 years ago. Two problems with that. One, time machines don't exist, and two, the only person with the resources and ambition to build one is the last guy that you want to do that. He's probably using to go back in time and high-five baby Hitler. I'll be honest, my feelings about Elon changed a bit in the writing of this piece. I'm probably now more impressed by what he's doing, but more worried by the fact that he's the one who's been doing it. Because he cultivates an image that is simply too visionary, too original to play by other people's rules, weighing away the damage that he does to the cost of innovation, saving humanity. But the truth is, that way of thinking isn't remotely original. We've seen it so many times before. The least surprising thing on Earth is a middle-aged billionaire CEO with self-serving explain why to the Earth. And you might say, he's saving humanity. What have I ever done? What industries have I been in? Nothing yet. But may I remind you, I've already taken the first step.
That the theory that life did not originate on Earth and was planted here from outer space, or pseudopanspermia, which is like the basic ingredients, the magic that you mentioned, was planted here from elsewhere in space.
I don't find them helpful. That's not to say they're wrong. So pseudotranspermia, the idea that the chemicals, the amino acids, the nucleotides make things in space. Well, we know that happens. It's unequivocal. They deliver it on meteorites, comets, and so on. So what do they do next? That's to me the question. Well, what they do is they stock a soup. Like, presumably they land in a pond or in an ocean or wherever they land. And then you end up with the best possible case scenario is you end up with a soup of nucleotides and amino acids, and then you have to say, so now what happens? And the answer is, well, they have to go become alive. So how did they do that? You might as well say that a miracle happened. I don't believe in soup. I think what we have in event is a continuous conversion, a continuous growth, a continuous reaction, continuous converting the flow of molecules into more of yourself, you might say, even in small bits. So you've got a kind of continuous self-organizational growth from the very beginning. You never have that in a soup.
Isn't the entire universe and living organisms in the universe, isn't it just soup all the way down? Is it also?
No. I mean, soup almost by definition doesn't have a structure.
But soup is a collection of ingredients that are like randomly.
Yeah, they're random. Then, I mean, we have chemistry going on here. We have membranes forming, which are affect oil, water interactions.
Okay, so it feels like there's a direction to a process, like a direct process.
There are directions to process, yeah. And if you're starting with CO2, and you've got two reactive fluids being brought together, and they react, what are they going to make? Well, they make carboxylic acid, which include the fatty acids that make up the cell membranes, and they form directly into their membranes. They form like soap bubbles. It's spontaneous organization caused by the nature of the molecules, and those things are capable of growing and are capable of, in effect, of being selected even before there are genes. We have a lot of order, and that order is coming from thermodynamics, and thermodynamics is always about increasing the entropy of the universe. But if you have oil and water and they're separating, you're increasing the entropy of the universe. Even though you've got some water, which is the same as water, to come back to your first question about panspermia properly. Just push the question somewhere else. That just, even if it's true, maybe life did start with panspermia. But so one of the principles that govern the emergence of life on any planet is an assumption that life started here. And it's an assumption that it started in a hydrothermal vent or it started in a terrestrial geothermal system. The question is, can we work out a testable sequence of events that lead from one into the other one, and then test and see if there's any truth in it? With panspermia, you can't do any of that.
But the fundamental question of panspermia is, do we have the machine here on Earth to build life? Is defense enough? Is oxygen and hydrogen and whatever the heck else we want and some source of energy and heat, is that enough to build life? Yes. Well, of course you would say that as a human, but there could be aliens right now chuckling at that idea. Maybe you need some special sauce. Your sense is we have everything.
This is precisely the question. So I like to, when I'm talking in schools, I like to start out with the idea of we can make a time machine. We go back 40 years, and we go to these environments that people talk about. We go to a deep sea hydrothermal vent, we go to a Yellowstone park type place environment, and we find some slime that looks like we tested it. Organic molecules. It's got a structure which is not obviously cells, but is this a separate cell on the way to life or not? How do we know? Unless you have an intellectual framework that says this is a separate cell, that's we never know how to say this. So what we can never hope for is that intellectual framework which can explain step by step, experiment by experiment, how we go from sterile linear to living cells as we know. And in that framework, we have a choice. It could be this way, it could be that way. Down the road. Did it have to be that way? Could it have been the other way? So if you come up with a long hypothesis, from basic framework that comes from all the way through to genes, like sheep, that's a long pathway. And nobody in the field will agree on the order in which these things happen. It's not about things, it means that you have to do some experiments and try and demonstrate that it's possible or not possible.
It's so freaking amazing that it happened, though. It feels like there's a direction to the thing. Can you try to answer from a framework perspective of what is life? So you said there's order, and yet there's complexity. So it's not perfectly, it's not boring, there's still some fun in it. And it also feels like the processes have a direction. Through the selection mechanism, they seem to be building something, always better, always improving. And maybe it's that's perception, that's our manifestation. Things are always better. Things are getting better, we'd like to believe that.
I mean, the world from the point of view of bacteria cause things to emerge from whatever environment they came from. They got into the planet very, very quickly. And they haven't really changed 4 billion years later. They're exactly the same.
About 4 billion years ago, bacteria started to further down the show. And then nothing happened for a while.
Nothing happened for 2 billion years. And after 2 billion years, we see another single event origin from our own type of cell, nuclear cells with a nucleus and some stuff going on inside. Another singular origin. It only happened once in the history of life on Earth. Maybe it happened multiple times, but there's no evidence everything has disappeared. But we have to at least take it seriously. That there's something that stops bacteria from becoming more complex. Because they didn't. That's a fact that they merged 4 billion years ago. Something happened 2 billion years ago, but the bacteria themselves didn't change. They remain bacterial. So there is no necessary trajectory towards great complexity in human beings at the end of it. It's very easy to imagine that without photosynthesis arising or without eukaryotes arising, that the planet could be full of bacteria and nothing else.
We'll get to that because that's a brilliant invention. If you were to show up, take that time machine, you said, asking yourself the question, is this a stepping stone of life? As you step along, when you see the early bacteria, how would you know it's life? And then, this is a really important question when you go to other planets. What is the framework of telling the difference between rock and bacteria?
I mean, the question's kind of both impossible to answer at the same time. There's an answer. I think we're trying to describe
question.
the answer. So I mean, there's at least 40 or 50 different definitions of life out there, and most of them are obviously bad in one way or another. I mean, there's for example, I can never remember the exact words that people use, but there's a working definition of life, which more or less says a system which is capable of self-sustaining system capable of evolution, something along those lines. I immediately have a problem with the word self-sustaining because it's sustained by the environment. I know what the headline is not trying to say, but
solution, which is basically make a copy of yourself. And sometimes myself get a little bit.
Now, when you say haunted house, you mean like a Halloween one or like a legitimate haunted house?
It's not a full monster. It's more just, in principle, you can. Actually, it turns out, say,
Those weren't ghosts. It's actually much scarier. They don't like shadow people either. I bet there was.
Which is similar to a version of it. It's going to be a head, which is a different kind of head. Now that is really
What do you like to receive?
is the change itself. Yes, it's a small change.
Your badge is still working.
Does it work? If it works,
Your badge is still working. Circulator.
to continue. It's a different morphology over time. And it has to be perpetuated. So that shift, that change in that domain has to work well enough that it is selected
And copied enough times to be tested.
So like any games, but there will be some occasions where it survives. And that's the idea that you have some fairly abrupt change in evolution. It's time for it to be with.
What about this idea that kind of tried to mathematize that version of life, saying how many steps, the shortest amount of steps it takes to build the thing? It's like an engineering rule.
I like that view, because I think that in a sense that's not very far away from what a hypothesis needs to do to be a tested hypothesis for the notion of life. We need to spell out here's each step, and here's the experiment to do for each step. The idea that we can do in labs, some people say, create life within 5 years, but that's not really about life. We have a planet 4 billion years ago with these red systems across the entire surface of the planet. We have billions of years if we want to have a feeling that we're not talking billions of years. Maybe billions of nanoseconds or picoseconds of chemistry, which is definitely freaky. But we still need to constrain those steps when we've got a planet doing similar chemistry as well as trajectory. Trajectory is planetary trajectory. The planet has properties. It's basically got iron at the center. It's got all the electrons at the center. It's more oxidized on the outside, partly because of the sun, and partly because the heat of volcanoes puts out oxidized gases. So the planet is a battery. It's a giant battery. And we have a flow of electrons go from inside to outside in these hydrogen elements, and that's the same topology as a cell has. A cell is basically just a micro version of the planet. And there is a trajectory in all of that, and there's an inevitability that some types of chemical reaction are going to be favored over others. And there's an inevitability in what happens in water, the chemistry that happens in water. Some will be immiscible with water, some structures and waters nobody really understands water very well. And it's another big question for experiments in the ocean, like what do you put in? What kind of structure do we want to induce in this water? Because the last thing is likely to be is just a block of water.
How fundamental is water to life, would you say?
I would say pretty fundamental. I wouldn't like to say it's impossible for life to start any other way, but water is everywhere. Water is extremely good at what it does, and carbon works in water especially well. So those things, carbon is everywhere. So those things together make me think probabilistically if we found 1,000 life forms, 995 of them would be carbon-based and living in water.
Now the reverse question, if you found a puddle of water elsewhere, and some carbon, no, just a puddle of water. Is a puddle of water a pretty damn good indication that life either exists here, or has once existed here? No, it doesn't work the other way.
I think you need a living planet. You need a planet which is hedged on turning over its surface. It needs to be a planet with water. It needs to be capable of bringing those electrons from inside to the outside. It needs to turn over its surface. It needs to make that water work and turn it into hydrogen. So I think you need a living planet. But once you've got a living planet, I think the rest of it is kind of thermodynamics.
So if you were to run Earth over 1 million times, up to this point, maybe beyond to the end, let's run into the end. What is it, how much variety is there? You kind of spoke to this trajectory, that the environment dictates, like chemically, I don't know which other way, spiritually, like dictates kind of the direction of this giant machine that seems chaotic, but does seem to have order in the steps it's taking. How often will life, how often will bacteria emerge? How often will something like humans emerge? How much variety do you think there will be?
I think at the level of bacteria, not much variety. I think we would get, as how many times you say, many times. And I would say at least a few 100,000 bacteria again.
Oh, wow.
Because I think there's some level of inevitability that the planet will give rise through the same processes to something very good. And I think, this is not something I thought a few years ago, but with a PhD student, Matthew Harrison, he's been studying code, and we've just been publishing on that. There are patterns that you can discern in code, or he has discerned in code. But if you think about them in terms of, we start with CO2 and hydrogen, these are the first steps of biochemistry. We come up with a code which is very similar to the code that we see. So it wouldn't surprise me any longer if we found life on Mars and hydrogen and code that was very different to the code we have here, without it just being transferred across. There's some inevitability about the whole of the beginnings of life, in my view.
That's really promising, because if the basic chemistry is tightly linked to the genetic code, that means we can interact with other life if it exists.
Well, that's potentially.
That's really exciting. That's the case. Okay. But then bacteria.
We've got bacteria.
Yeah.
Photosynthesis. Much harder, I would say.
Let's actually go there. Let's go to the inventions.
Yeah.
What is photosynthesis? And why is it hard?
Very different forms. I mean, basically, you're taking hydrogen and you're sticking it onto CO2 and it's powered by the sun. Which is where you're taking hydrogen from. And photosynthesis, we know in plants, is coming from water. So you're using the power of the sun to split water, take out the hydrogen, stick it onto CO2. And the oxygen is a waste product, and you just throw it out, throw it away. So it's the single greatest planetary pollution event in the whole history of the Earth.
Pollutant being oxygen.
Yes. Yeah. It also made possible animals. You can't have large active animals without oxygenated atmosphere, at least not in the sense that we know on Earth.
So that's a really big invention.
A huge invention, yes. And it happened once. There's a few things that happen once on Earth, and you're always stuck with this problem. Once it happened, it becomes so good so quickly that it precluded the same thing happening ever again. Or are there other reasons? And we really have to look at each one in turn and think, why did it only happen once? In this case, it's really difficult to split water. It requires a lot of power, and that power, you're effectively separating charge across the membrane. And the way in which you do it, if it doesn't all rush back and kind of cause an explosion right to the side, requires really careful wiring. And that wiring, it can't be easy to get it right, because You know, the plants that we see around us, they have chloroplasts. Those chloroplasts were cyanobacteria, but those cyanobacteria are the only group of bacteria that can do that type of photosynthesis. So there's plenty of opportunity.
So not even many bacteria. So who invented photosynthesis? That
There's cyanobacteria, all their ancestors.
and there's not many.
No other bacteria can do what's called oxygenic photosynthesis. Lots of other bacteria can split. I mean, you can take your hydrogen from somewhere else. You can take even hydrogen sulfide, bubbling out of hydrogen thermal vent. Forever too. Hydrogen's sulfur is the waste now. You can do it from iron. You can take electrons. So the oceans were probably full of iron. You can take an electron from ferrous iron, so iron 2 plus, and make an iron 3 plus, which now precipitates as rust. And you take a proton from the acidic of the ocean, stick it there, now you've got hydrogen atoms, stick it off CO2. You've just done the trick. The trouble is, you bury yourself in rusty iron. And with sulfur, you can bury yourself in sulfur. One of the reasons oxygenic photosynthesis is so much better is that the waste product is oxygen, which just falls away.
That seems like extremely unlikely, and it's extremely essential for the evolution of complex life because of all the oxygen.